I began to think that the process of hybridization, which I had envisioned before as primarily taking sperm and eggs and then altering the embryo or the zygote, and then leading to this sort of a bell-shaped curve of part of them look alien, part of them look human, most of them look in the middle, that was probably true, but not the whole story. And then I began to realize that what they were doing is that they were adding DNA from hybrids to the sperm and egg, and they were getting a skewed bell-shaped curve that was looking more and more like humans. And if you do this enough time, you just get beings who look more and more human-like, more and more. You get a refining of the species, in a sense. And that apparently is what has been happening. Although how the process, I'm still a little bit unclear of the process, and there were some very pointed questions asked me about this once by a person who knew what he was talking about that I couldn't answer. And so I don't know all the medical procedures that occur here in that sense. But I do know that there is a spectrum of hybrids who look mainly alien and look mainly human, and some look really, really human. Then people would begin to describe to me how they would be taken into a room. These are abductees, and their attention would be directed to a screen-like device. They all look up at the screen, and the person will say, and I've written a couple of these kinds of events up, although I heard many of them, the person will see a picnic, for example. And at the picnic, there'll be people who are playing ball and who are grilling and who are standing around talking this and that. And they'll hear in their mind's eye, in their mind's ear, "Can you tell the difference between you and us?" And the person will look carefully at the screen and say, "No. Everybody looks the same to me, And they'll say, "See? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that excellent? Soon we will all be together. Soon we will be here and we will all be living together. Isn't that wonderful?" Or they will see, here's another case, it's a group shot of all sorts of people, like a high school shot of other class on steps, that sort of thing. And they'll say, "Can you pick out us among you here?" And the person will look and try to figure it out and they'll say, No, I can't. And they'll say, "See, isn't that wonderful? Soon we will all be together." And I began to hear this a lot by people who were not aware of anybody else's testimony or anything like that, or who were just saying that, and who didn't really understand the meaning of what it was either. And then people would say, then these beings would tell them, soon there's going to be a big change. There'll be a big change, and you're going to be a very important part of the change, and you're going to have a job to do, and you'll be very pleased to do it. And to the abductees who don't know what they're talking about. But this will happen soon. Everything's going to happen soon. It's going to be happening soon. Now that's the change. We're going to have a change. The change is coming soon. Well, when you hear things for the first time, you always put it on the back burner waiting for validation from other people who are unaware of the testimony. Sure. Well, so the first few times I heard this, you just blow it off. You just think, well, I'll wait. If I never hear it again, there is no change, But I began to hear it over and over again from a wide variety of people. Something was happening in the future. Some change was going to happen. They had some role in the future. This was going to happen. They began to convince me, because the first time I heard it, it came out of the blue. And the second time I heard it, it came out of the blue. It sounded like I was leading them to it. I didn't even believe it had happened in the first place. So, because you have to wait for confirmation. So you don't, it's not like I'm leading people, it's like they're leading me. I instituted controls for that eventually, which I can tell you about if you want. They're kind of fun controls. But just to show you how it doesn't work the way people think it works. But the point is that after a while, I began to think, well, maybe there is going to be something happening in the future. Maybe this is leading to something. And I was realizing at this time that we're not dealing with an experiment here. that this is not a situation where people are just being put on a table and are looked at and say, what's this, what's that, and you pull off somebody's arm and look inside their body and see what's in there, It's not like that. That this is, in fact, a program. And as a program, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it is goal-directed. They are doing this for a reason, and this is a global phenomenon. And the amount of time and energy and material and personnel that are involved in this program is fantastic. Unbelievable. It's literally beyond imagination. And I'm getting letters from around the world, people having these experiences, so as is Bud Hawkins and all other abduction researchers who are known. Then people began to be much more specific about what they would be doing in the future. And a lot of what they were doing was crowd control. Standing on a sidewalk saying, move along, it'll be okay, don't worry, everything is all right, just keep moving, move in this direction, move that way. And I had a whole bunch of people telling me that this is what they're going to be doing. And I'm talking to a person who has a PhD in English, telling me, well, that's what she's going to be doing. She's going to be standing on a corner directing people. And I'm talking to a person who is a junior high school, middle school dropout, telling me the same exact story. Well, they'll be standing directing people. They don't know particularly why, but they have to. This is what they know that they'll be doing. Plus a whole variety of other things. Those are just an example. So people would be saying these things like they'd be doing crowd control work, of all things to think of. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't they envision themselves in the future as being an ambassador? Or something that's, that would be obviously some psychological thing that they would do, which would enhance their role in this new change or whatever. But in fact, they'd be doing mundane things and helping with abductions and helping and doing this and doing that and all sorts of other things. And it was hard to imagine, but I began to realize that this was a program. If you were to believe what these beings were saying to the abductees, or then telling it to me, that this was a program of integration into the society, that they were integrating into the society and they would be looking like us, just like in science fiction. Just exactly what I don't want to hear. It goes all the way back to if you ever think this is science fiction, or if you ever think that this is just a matter of popular culture, people are picking it up, well, this is it. But this is where the evidence led, and that is got to be emphasized. It didn't lead in 1,000 different directions, as it should have if it were psychological. It didn't lead back to the importance of the individual, as it would have in psychological cases. It didn't lead into all sorts of crazy areas. All the stories, all of them that I heard, led to one direction. And that this was, in fact, an integration program. People were filling in pieces of the puzzle, and it was leading in one direction, a direction I did not like and did not want to hear. Now, the problem is this. From the beginning, from the Barney and Betty Hill case, there has been one constant among many. But the one constant I'm going to focus on now is the constant that Barney and Betty Hill said, that they made a left-hand turn down the road and then went a mile, and then they knew that they had to sort of close their eyes and go like that. In other words, they were being neurally controlled from afar. That is the case with every single abduction event ever recorded, period, that has been investigated. Now, the one exception here is Travis Walton. The one exception here is the Antonio Villas-Boas case, and that was an uninvestigated case. But, and that was in 1957. But the fact is that is a constant in 100% of the abduction cases. Without that, there would be no abduction phenomenon. People would indeed reach under their pillow and get out their Magnum 45 and blow their heads off. They would call the police. They would, they would do that. They'd run, whatever it is that they would do. There would be no abduction phenomenon. So that must be, and that is in place in every single abduction. Every single one. Now, the point here is that if these beings integrate into the society who look just like you and I, they have that ability, and we do not. That makes us inferior, and it makes them superior. When you look through history and you see technologically superior people confronting tribal societies, for example, it is not the tribal societies that survive and flourish. It is the ones who have the better weapons, generally speaking. And you see the extinction of tribes throughout the world over the years. And the point is that this is one of those instances where you have a superior technologically, not necessarily physically technologically, although there is that, but biologically superior, neurologically superior, that is confronting a neurologically inferior society, and that makes this a catastrophic event. Even if it is anecdotal evidence, and I understand that this is anecdotal evidence, it's human testimony, it's human memory the testimony retrieved through hypnosis administered by amateurs. I understand that. I understand how weak this is.
Do you ever wish you're wrong?
All the time. All the time. I went through a down period where I was very, very, very burned out, and I was very depressed over various things that happened in my life, and I just couldn't do this research anymore. I would have sessions with people, and I'd dread that they would actually come over and I'd have to do it and all that. And this went on for a long time. And then as I came out, I remember doing a session with somebody, and this is after I'd already done it for 15 years. And after 15 years, I remember doing the session, and I thought to myself, this really is happening. This really is happening. It's like this. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I realized that, but it dawned on me again. It's so easy to think that this isn't. It's so easy to slip into this idea of, no, this can't possibly be happening. I was actually slipping into that, but this really is happening. As crazy as it sounds, as off the wall as it sounds, this really is happening. It is frightening. It's terrorizing in a sense. It is not something I ever expected to hear. I never expected to go in this direction, let alone leading people in this direction. I would like to lead them into the direction where I become the king of the world and the superior person, and that would be good. But in fact, it's not. It was unimaginable to me when I started doing this research what this was all about. Just not imaginable. I could not have ever imagined where I'd be today with this phenomenon. And I have kicked and screamed all the way through as I have slowly moved. People said, oh, well, hybrids are here, and I just blew all that stuff off. And now I think to myself, in my own research, where I can have control of it, and I know my weaknesses, and I know the weaknesses of the methodology, and I know the strengths of the methodology, I now can say to myself that this is an integration program, and that hybrids will be integrating into the society and might be doing it now, and I can't get away from that. I can't rationalize that in any psychological way.
In terms of Dave's marshaling the evidence, it's all pointing in that direction. I mean, there isn't anything in it that you can read as being a divergence into, oh yes, they really want to come and learn about our computers or hear our music or become artists or who knows what, or cure cancer. We don't get that. We don't get anything that diverges from this. Mm-hmm. Yet, this that we're talking about is really a future thing which we do not understand yet fully. In human terms, anthropomorphic terms, it does look like ultimately some kind of takeover.